On the hour. Mass shooting in Philadelphia on Independence Day, 4 dead. 4 bodies recovered from Eagle Pass in Rio Grande. Erdogan blames France riots and institutional racism. Welcome to the World News on VOPTV. I am Kayla Abraham. 4 people have been killed and 4 others injured in a mass shooting in the United States. The incident happened at night in Philadelphia and a suspect is in custody. Police arrested a man wearing a bulletproof vest and found a handgun and a rifle in a nearby intersection. This is another mass shooting in the U.S. in the last few days. Over the weekend, 2 people were killed and 28 injured in a shooting in Baltimore, not far from Philadelphia. There have been 339 mass shootings in the United States since the beginning of the year. Meanwhile, drones lit up the skies over Los Angeles for Independence Day. For the 4th year in a row, the American Mecca of cinema is hosting a drone show on the occasion of the national holiday. And in Washington, a final rehearsal was held before tonight's Independence Day concert. The host of the show is the actor Alfonso Ribeiro. Among the stars who will sing are Chicago, Boyz II Men, Babyface, and Belinda Carlisle. Traditionally, at the end of the concert, there will be a spectacular fireworks show. Texas authorities have recovered 4 bodies, including an infant, from the Rio Grande near the United States-Mexico border since the start of July. Lieutenant Chris Olivares, a spokesperson with the Texas Department of Public Safety, stated that 2 of the bodies were pulled from the river on July 1, one on July 2, and another on July 3. The remains have not yet been identified. According to Olivares, TMU operators and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commissions responded to a request from the U.S. Border Patrol regarding a possible infant drowning on July 1. The agencies deployed 2 airboats and came across multiple bodies floating along the river. Olivares disclosed that 4 people were brought onto the boat and 2 of them were unresponsive, a woman and an infant girl. TMU operators performed CPR on the woman and baby, but they remained unresponsive. Once medical staff arrived at the scene, both were taken to the Fort Duncan Regional Medical Center where they were pronounced dead. Olivares disclosed that the 2 survivors, who were not identified, were turned over to U.S. Border Patrol. The Texas DPS spokesman shared that authorities also recovered the body of an unknown male from the Rio Grande on Sunday and then the body of an unknown woman on Monday. The Russian Defense Ministry disclosed in a statement on Telegram that Russia intercepted 5 Ukrainian drones near Moscow on Tuesday and termed it a terrorist attack. The ministry stated that in the morning, an attempt by the Kiev regime to carry out a terrorist attack using 5 UAVs against targets in Moscow region and New Moscow was foiled. It added that 4 of the drones were intercepted by air defenses in the New Moscow region. The 5th drone was suppressed by electronic warfare and crashed on the territory of the Odesovos district, the Moscow region. The Russian ministry also stated that there were no casualties as a result of the drone interceptions. Meanwhile, earlier, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin disclosed that the alleged drone attack forced an airport to divert some flight. Sobyanin stated on Telegram that for security reasons, some flights from Vnukovo Airport have been temporarily rerouted. According to a statement from Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency, Vnukovo International Airport, one of 4 airports that serve Moscow, also diverted 6 flights on Tuesday. It added that due to technical issues unmanageable by the airport itself, Vnukovo has imposed restrictions on the arrival and departure of aircraft from beginning at 5:10 a.m. Similarly, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that Mikhail Saakashvili must not be allowed to die behind bars, as new photographs reveal the toll the former Georgian leader's long-running hunger strike is having on his health. In a statement issued late on Tuesday, Zelensky stated that Saakashvili, who is serving a 6-year prison sentence in Georgia, is now at risk of being killed by Russia at the hands of Georgian authorities. Saakashvili was the president of Georgia from 2004 to 2007 and from 2008 to 2013. He was stripped of his Georgian passport in 2015 after becoming a Ukrainian citizen and the governor of Odessa. Kiev has summoned the Georgian ambassador and asked him to leave Ukraine within 48 hours for talks with his own government. Zelensky's intervention came after pictures emerged from a court hearing in Basili that showed Kashvili looking emaciated and gravely ill. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba stated that the move was extremely harsh by the Georgian government. He added that the Georgian authorities really want him to die. A Georgian court convicted Kashvili in absentia in 2018 of abusing his authority. The former president was detained after secretly returning to Georgia from Ukraine in 2021, whilst he's serving as the head of Zelensky's National Reform Council. Saakashvili's lawyers said the charges against him are politically motivated and are calling for the sentence to be commuted so he can seek medical care abroad. He has refused to eat in protest at his treatment on and off since his arrest. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has projected an image of strength in front of a virtual gathering of Moscow-friendly leaders on Tuesday in what was the Russian leader's first appearance on the world stage since he faced an armed insurrection late last month. The comments made during an address to leaders attending the Shanghai Cooperation Organization hosted by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi came days after Putin diffused the rebellion launched by the Wagner mercenary boss. The events were widely seen as the most significant threat to power the autocrats had faced and left Putin's partners and rivals alike wondering how tightly in control he really was more than 1 year into his floundering invasion of Ukraine. Putin used his moment to speak at the one-day summit to give his answers to that question. Many of the leaders in virtual attendance, Russia-friendly nations who share borders, diplomatic aims, or strong economic ties with Moscow could be significantly impacted by changes in Putin's fate. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has blamed France's nationwide riot on institutional racism and the country's colonial past on Monday. The French government had been battling riots and looting in Paris and across the country since 17-year-old Nahel M., a French citizen of Algerian background, was shot dead by a police officer during a traffic stop last Tuesday. Erdogan has portrayed himself as a defender of the world's Muslims since leading his Islamic-rooted party to power in Turkey 2 decades ago. He blamed the French unrest on Monday on Islamophobia that he linked to France's colonial past. He stated on television after chairing a weekly cabinet meeting that in countries known for their colonial past, cultural racism has turned into institutional racism. He added that the root of the events that started in France is the social architecture built by this mentality. Most of the immigrants who are condemned to live in ghettos, who are systematically oppressed, are Muslims. He also condemned the widespread looting that has accompanied the unrest. Erdogan stated that the streets cannot be used to seek justice. However, it is clear the authorities should also learn from the social explosion. A first UN Security Council meeting on the potential threats of artificial intelligence to international security will be the centerpiece of the UK's presidency this month. The July 18 meeting will include briefings by international AI experts and Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who last month called the alarm bells over the most advanced form of AI deafening and loudest from its developers. He stated that these scientists and experts have called on the world to act, declaring AI an existential threat to humanity on a par with the risk of nuclear war. In September, he announced plans to appoint an advisory board on artificial intelligence and has stated that he would react favorably to a new UN agency on AI, suggesting the mix of knowledge and regulatory powers of the International Atomic Energy Agency as a model. Announcing the meeting, UK Ambassador Dame Barbara Woodward stated that the UK wants to encourage a multilateral approach to managing both the huge opportunities and the risk that artificial intelligence holds for us all, stressing that this is going to take a global effort. She stressed the benefits are huge, citing AI's potential to help UN development programs, improve humanitarian aid operations, assist peacekeeping operations, and support conflict prevention, including by collecting and analyzing data. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has praised Senegal President Macky Sall's announcement that he would not seek a third term in next year's election. President Sow announced his decision in a nationally televised speech, ending weeks of speculations that raised the possibility of political uncertainty in the West African nation. Sow stated in Monday's speech that Senegal is more than just him, it's full of people capable of taking Senegal to the next level. In a statement, Blinken stated that they believe that free and fair elections and transitions of power yield stronger institutions and more stable and prosperous countries. President Sow's clear statement sets an example for the region in contrast to those who seek to erode respect for democratic principles, including term limits. Sow was first elected in 2012, defeating incumbent President Abdoulaye Wade, who was seeking a third term of his own. Sow was re-elected in 2019 under a revised constitution that limited a president to 2 5-year terms, but his supporters have argued that Sow could seek a third term because he was elected under the previous constitution. Speculation that Sow could run again in 2024 set off nationwide protests last month between security forces and supporters of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, in which 16 people were killed after Sonko was convicted and sentenced to 2 years in prison on sexual assault charges. The rumors also threaten to tarnish Senegal's reputation as a beacon of democracy and political stability in the turbulent West African region, which has seen leaders ignore constitutionally mandated terms and limits to retain power. Finally, a Sudanese advocacy group has urged the United Nations Security Council and the Peace and Security Council of the African Union to deploy monitoring teams in the Darfur region in response to a recent increase in tribal violence. The Zalingay Resistance Committees in Central Darfur State reported that the Rapid Support Forces and allied militiamen had taken control of the state, resulting in widespread insecurity. In West Darfur State, clashes between the Sudanese army and RSF forces escalated into a fierce tribal conflict, rendering the city uninhabitable. The head of the Darfur Bar Association, Salim Mahmoud, expressed disappointment with the lack of response from the international community and called for an immediate action. Mahmoud plans to submit memorandums to various bodies, including the UN Security Council, the Peace and Security Council, the African Union, and human rights organizations, reminding them of their legal, political, and moral responsibilities regarding the situation in Darfur. The humanitarian situation in Zalingay was described as catastrophic, with the city still under siege and facing power outages, internet disruptions, and a dearth of information regarding casualties. And that is a wrap on the world news on VOP TV. I am Kayla Abraham. VOP Business Show coming up next. Thanks for watching.